Well, the top U.S. military officer has cast doubts on the West's insistence that Iran is seeking nuclear weapons. The chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff says he believes it is unclear whether Iran is actually using its nuclear capabilities to build an atomic weapon. General Martin Dempsey made the remark in an exclusive interview with CNN. This is while the U.S. and its Western allies accused Tehran of doing just that. Dempsey also warned against a military strike against Iran, saying it would be destabilizing. He believes that Iran's government is a, quote, rational actor in the international arena.
And that includes, for the most part at this point, being prepared defensively.
Well, joining us now on the line via Skype from Washington is Jeff Steinberg. He's with the Executive Intelligence Review. Many thanks for joining us here on Press TV, sir. Now, the comments by Dempsey come as the U.S. and its allies continue to demonize Iran and impose sanctions on it. What do you make of it?
There's a very profound split between the elected officials in the United States and Europe. In other words, President Obama, members of the Congress, the House and the Senate from both parties, and the permanent officials of government, whether it be the military, the intelligence community, the diplomatic corps. Those people, by and large, reflect the view that was presented on CNN today by General Dempsey. And by the way, the same message was delivered by General Dempsey to Israel when he was there in early January. I would say that the message that he delivered to the Israelis, not to attack Iran, was the harshest message delivered to that government from the United States since the time that Dwight Eisenhower ordered Israel, France, and Britain to pull out of the Suez Canal after they invaded. So the military, the intelligence community have a very different view, and they're less subject to manipulation, blackmail, and bribery by the Israeli lobby and related factions that want this war desperately.
Right, then how do you see admissions such as these in light of fierce anti-Iran propaganda impacting public opinion within the West, especially considering that their governments continue to derive legitimacy for their policies by portraying Iran as a threat?
Well, you know, there was a national intelligence estimate, which is the highest level intelligence document produced in the United States government. An NIE was completed and distributed to the president, to cabinet members, and certain select members of Congress last October. And the conclusions of that NIE were that there's no evidence whatsoever that Iran has resumed work on weaponization of a nuclear bomb. Yes, there's enrichment. Everybody knows that. It's legal under the NPT, and it's monitored by the International Atomic Energy Agency. And Iran has a modernizing program of its ballistic missiles. Most every country in the world has that. So the intelligence estimate of the U.S. government, which unfortunately remains classified and has only been leaked out to the Los Angeles Times and a few other publications, basically says that Iran poses no threat of some nuclear weapon breakout now, and there's no indication that they have decided or are about to decide. When General Dempsey said Iran is a rational actor, look, Iran has elections. Iran has a constitution. Iran has a Supreme National Security Council whose membership is pretty well known publicly, and there's a decision-making structure that seems to function in a very rational way. So what General Dempsey said is all aimed at pushing back against war propaganda and disinformation that's coming predominantly from the media and from the elected officials and from certain international oligarchical circles, including from London, who are desperate to get a war going because their financial system is collapsing. And wars are always a very good way to restructure without changing the power arrangements.
Indeed, and just very quickly, if you can, as vague as the admission is on part of Dempsey, what kind of an impact can such comments make, bearing in mind this is election year and politicians in the U.S. are trying to sound tough?
Well, remember that Benjamin Netanyahu is coming to Washington on March 5th, the AIPAC organization, the most radical and violent of the Zionist organizations in America, has moved up the date of their conference to host Netanyahu when he comes to Washington to meet Obama, and 200 members of Congress are lined up to attend. So, yeah, the propaganda drumbeat for war is overwhelming. But look, remember, there was a similar propaganda drumbeat for war before we invaded Iraq, and it was all about nuclear bombs and weapons of mass destruction and nuclear mushroom clouds. And look what came out of that. There was no such program. So one would hope that the population is a little better informed this time around. But again, there's no guarantees. That's why the propaganda is more intense now against Iran than it was against Iraq and Saddam Hussein in the run-up to the invasion.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. That was Jeff Steinberg with the Executive Intelligence Review joining us there on the line via Skype from Washington. Mr. Steinberg, as always, we thank you for your comments here on Press TV.